The Grand Dame is bringing Potomac back, baby. And is Giselle actually right about something? Let's talk Real Housewives of Potomac.
In the dim light, in the spotlight, 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 in the dim light, in the dim light, in the dim light, in the dim light. Don't be
Welcome
silly,
to the
baby.
Parker's Couch. Like, subscribe, share, do all the things. Look, I have not talked Housewives of Potomac yet this year, as they had stopped talking Housewives. My brother and I used to talk it sometimes on our channel. And Potomac was really stale the last couple of seasons, and it was really heavy. It just wasn't fun. It wasn't enjoyable. That's changing this season and is getting back an energy that I did like and I appreciated about it. So I said, why not start talking about it again? Because I am enjoying it. It's becoming part of my Sunday night again, that, an enjoyable part of it. So I just want to share some thoughts I had. It's not going to be recapping the whole episode and things of that nature. Just want to talk about the things that resonated with me, that stuck out with me, and just to hear y'all opinion on it too as well, to see what you thought about it. So let's kick it off here with episode 2, and we're going to talk about Wendy and Giselle's conversation first. Now, as you know, this has been a relationship that has just been tumultuous, and I think it had a lot to do with Robin and Candace getting in the way in some parts and sticking up for their friends as well. And also their own individual kind of wrongdoings to each other in it. Now, just for, all bias sake or anything, I was definitely more team Wendy than I was team Giselle. Um, but I believe they both have their place and stuff within the franchise. And I appreciated that they came together to have this conversation. Now, I do think it is it is interesting how neither woman kind of wanted to fold with each other, and it's kind of what I expected. Now, can we talk about how good Wendy looked, though? In my opinion, too, coming up to this conversation when she had her feathers on and her little bob going on and everything. Like, she looks really good and stuff so far this season. And well, I think she said she had her feathers in case she need to fly away, something like that. That was cute. But in this conversation, they're getting into their problems with each other. And Giselle brings up the fact that Wendy can come off condescending and how she doesn't, do well with that, for a quick summary there. I do agree here. Now, hear me out. I like Dr. Wendy, but when Dr. Wendy first came on the scene, it was pretty strong, and it was given that "I'm educated, you're not" attitude, and she has held that at different times in the series. Love her education, love her 5 degrees and whatever and all this and that, but it can come off as off-putting to other people sometimes, because it's like you're saying, "You're not on my level. You're not as accomplished as me. You're not as good as I am because you don't have XYZ." And that can be standoffish and not the kind of person that everybody want to rock with. I think Giselle has a point there. Wendy also has a point where she was saying how you can't police or judge how I'm going to respond based off of what you do, especially if you initiate some things, and also getting on how she could be standoffish and cold. Now that 100%. There are various times, and they played clips. They played just a couple of them, but various of times, Giselle's like, "I'm not dealing with you." She's keeping herself on the other side of the room. She doesn't want Wendy to touch her. All these different things, and Giselle says something to the effect, "Well, if I don't like you, I don't f with you. Like, I don't want you around." I appreciate her being honest about that, but that's not how you handle things as an adult. I feel like not without having a conversation. So they come to an agreement where Giselle says if there is an issue, like she's made sure she does have a conversation with her. And Wendy's like, yes, in the moment. And they're like, in the moment. And they are friendly somewhat to each other, I guess, more so. Now in the confessionals, Giselle is kind of like, this is the best conversation they've ever had. And maybe they could be bestie-ish kind of thing. And then Wendy and her just like, it's not giving bestie energy. What's happened? It definitely wasn't giving bestie energy, but it's given the energy of we want to stay on this show. We want to keep our checks flowing. Let's, agree to bury a hatchet and work together however we need to going forward. Like just, being cordial. And I feel like this is a place that they can be is being cordial with each other. Wendy, if you can be cordial with Mia after everything that done happened and stick up for Mia in different situations, you can certainly be cordial with Giselle. So yes, y'all can work together. And Giselle, you really don't have a reason to really dislike Wendy to that degree or not be a friend. So I appreciated this conversation because that's a hatchet that needs to be buried in order for this franchise to kind of move forward and be strong, especially without Robin or Candace there now in these situations. So I did like that. In this episode, we get to meet a little bit more Stacy, the new one of the new members here from QVC, news reporter. Resume goes on and on from Detroit. We learn she's from Detroit, Michigan. We see her and her daughter having a conversation and stuff, and her daughter's getting ready to go on this trip with her father. And we get more of that, a little bit more of that history with the separation they're going through. The daughter, she's teaching her some German too as well because her father is German. Her ex-husband or soon to be ex-husband, it seemed like it was in a separation phase. I don't know where they are in that process. What I thought was interesting about their conversation with the daughter, Stacy talks about not sharing with her the separation of what's happening. So right now, it's like when the father's in town, she has an apartment in DC actually, and she goes away in DC, and it's like she's working off on business. And then whenever the father is off on business or whatever, she's at home. I get not sharing every kind of detail with your child, and it depends on the age of the child. And she's saying they're just going to bring her in at the end. But children are perceptive. I don't know why we stop treating children like people, like they can't pick up on things. I'm sure this child has already picked up on the fact that something's going on here. Mommy and daddy aren't together a lot with me. Kids pick up on this kind of stuff. Now, I'm not saying you have to have every conversation with them, but maybe you want to start planting some seeds. Or I would suggest talking with someone, or if you haven't at this point, know this stuff was filmed a while ago. So who knows what point is at now or where you're at in this process. But I would just say, let's not treat our kids like babies and bring them along on a journey in an appropriate manner. Now, let me see. Let me go to my notes here so I don't forget any part that I wanted to talk about. All right. Yes, the conversation with Ashley. Now, this was very interesting where they're getting into a conversation about race. Her and Ashley meet up. And Ashley, was that a GNA outfit? Because that wasn't it. That was not it if that was a GNA workout outfit. But they're getting together and they're going for a walk. Stacy asks, Ashley her not nationality, about her ethnicity and stuff, and she lets her know she's biracial. And she's like, oh, like my kid and everything. They're getting into that, and she asks Ashley, how does she deal with her biracial kids? Because she's like, you're biracial but you identify as black, right? And stuff. And she was talking about the how do you handle this with your kids, because she's kind of going through that with her child now being biracial, which Ashley's kids would be, I don't know what percentage that is because she's a biracial woman, but her ex-husband, is white, or I guess they're still technically married. And she says, yeah, like they don't really identify with that part of themselves. And she talks about how tough it is because how she grew up, she got to grow up on the black side of her family. So she always embraced that blackness and grew up around it and was fortunate enough to be around family to have that reinforced. But it's different for her kids because they're not in those same spaces. And so she's saying how she gives them books and they read and things like that, but that identity part is not really there. And that's a struggle for her. Stacy shares her experience about her kid being about how Germans are very proud people. And she wants her to also be proud about her black side and stuff too, and her blackness. And she talks about how growing up in Detroit, how she'd go across the street and Penny would be braiding my hair and da 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 da. Da. And she said it's clear right now that her daughter is not going to have those same experiences or doesn't grow up that same way. Excuse me as I get a little thirsty. And so she's talking about how to handle that. The question I have for both of these ladies, I get it. I appreciate this conversation being on TV. I appreciate y'all having this conversation. I thought it is very legit and things people talk about and deal with. But what are you doing? Yeah, Ashley, books. Okay, yeah, that's one thing. It's good and important that they read books, but there's real life. Like you are the one putting your kids in their situations. Stacy, you're the one putting your child in the situations that they're in. Now, I'm not saying this to come off as like hard or bad or anything like that, but think about your own agency in the decisions and choices you're making. Like, if you want your child to be around blackness, bring them around blackness. We are in DC. I mean, I know it's not the chocolate city that it used to be, but DC is still a lot more black than a lot of places in the US. So there's opportunity. So much culture, so much of everything around here. Hopefully, you already brought them to things like the African American History Museum and stuff. Just little things like that. But there are that's very surfacey and stuff on that level, but there's so many things around DC and opportunities to be around black folks and opportunities to embrace that culture. So I genuinely enjoyed this conversation being brought to TV, but I do want to be pointed out that you do have agency in this situation as well. It's not like your kids are, left out floating on the island. You can bring them places. You can do things from them for them. You can have them around your family, assuming that, that is a place that y'all want to be. I know Ashley, you can have them around yours. I don't know what Stacy's family life and all that stuff is like, if that's the same, but there are other opportunities to bring them around black people. I want to say one thing that I do love, Karen and Kay. I do love this relationship that's blooming. If you remember, oh wait, let me back up. I almost forgot. There was one more piece of that conversation. Stacy. She reveals to Ashley. Ashley asks her about dating and things like that. She's been separated for a year. She reveals that she is in love with a man that she's never had sex with. And they get into why that happened hasn't happened is because he's a devout Christian. All right. I don't want to be offensive. I understand everybody has a right to live the way they want to live. And it seems to be the way she tells the story, this is more about him than it is about her. Seems like she would definitely be willing to have sex and kind of even wants it. It was given that, but he's the devout Christian. I don't know how devout she is. Ashley was like, "What are some of the things you do? We go to church together." Look, y'all, I've been down this road, and I'm just speaking from experience. I've been here. I've been around people saving yourself for marriage. And it was like he doesn't want to have sex until they're married. And then Ashley's like, "Well, do you even want to get married again?" And she's like, "Well, we're kind of heading that direction. But do you?" That didn't answer the question. But anyway, saving yourself for marriage does not, in my personal opinion, it doesn't change anything whatsoever. And I think it's important that people learn each other and know each other. And at this point, y'all look grown. Understand, not just having sex to not have sex, not everybody just to have it, because that's not everybody's, makeup and how they do things. But I do think sex is very important in a relationship. And maybe it's just my viewpoint because I'm not that Christian anymore that I used to be, and having those same views and doing that. But also, I think part of it, I don't want to be too racy. But is this man completely straight? I'm just gonna leave that out there. I'm not gonna have people, and when I say I speak from experience, I speak from experience. That's all I'm gonna say. So I know how this can go, and maybe it's easy for him because I don't know. I haven't met this man. I All I do remember is Karen. Was it Karen doing the interview where somebody was talking about her boyfriend? And as was that on, y'all? Was that on Watch What Happens Live? Where did I see this? It just hit me right now, and was asking like, "What are your thoughts? What do you think?" And they were just like, if it was Karen or somebody else, was like, "Well, I met him," and was like, "Pretty much, I'm gonna leave it at that." And then didn't really have much more to say. Oh no, it was the Watch What Happens Live with Karen, but they had the girl from Found on, who name is just escaping me right now. Let me look up real quick. Uh what is her name? What is her name? Yes, Shanola Hampton. They had her on there, and she knows Stacy. And she is like, and I've met her husband, me or her boyfriend. And she was like, I'm just gonna leave it at that. And she didn't want to say anymore, but she loves Stacy. That made me question. So we gonna see, y'all. We gonna see what it's given, and we gonna make our judgments. You know what we do, but we're not here to hate or disrespect. But I got questions in that situation. All right, where was I now with Karen and Kay? I do love Karen and Kay's relationship. If you remember at the end of the bit fight last season, Karen really took care of Kay, and Kay really talked about how much she appreciated that and how Karen stepped in and was there for her. And I love to see them leaning into this relationship. And it just seems to be like genuine in how it's forming. And we get to meet Kay's man and stuff that they're moving in together. Greg, I believe was his name. And she is like, my man, my man, my man. Like she loves her man. But then Karen has a little shady moment because she talks about her birthday party. And was like, were you invited? He knew Giselle ain't invite that girl, and Giselle didn't. So Karen was trying to be messy with that one. So let's see if this leads to anything else. Cause Kay's giving that energy like, if she don't mess with you, you gonna know. And she's not gonna back down. Is not gonna be afraid to say something. Giselle in the later scene tries to squash that, in the confessionals with Karen being messy, and she's like, she's gonna invite Kay to her, excuse me, to her GNA event that's coming up. And let's talk about that because this is the big thing of the episode, the whole scheduling conflict. Now, Karen and Giselle are meeting, and Giselle too, if that's a GNA outfit. Ooh, y'all gonna have some things. But Giselle is having a GNA collaboration with Brain Tumor. kind of foundation and stuff for a charity event, which I think is very dope. And knowing that her father passed away from brain cancer, a brain tumor, 12 from he found out, I believe she said, found out he had the tumor and 12 days later died. Very sad. That was a very sad moment with her father passing. And so she's throwing this GNA event in collaboration for charity. Karen is getting awarded as is going to an award event the same day. It's like a Fem Power. Nobody even knows what she's getting awarded for. Giselle, being her shady self, says, "What is she getting awarded for? Running into a tree?" And Giselle throws some shade about this whole situation about she remembers this event and when it came out and Karen wasn't anywhere mentioned. And so she thinks some people couldn't come and Karen asked her way in because she was like, what else does Karen do? Kind of thing to be awarded. And even Karen couldn't even answer what the award is about or what's going on. She just said, for everything I do. So I don't know. That's neither here nor there. But anyway, they're going on at the same time. So what happens early in the morning, like 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m. that morning, Karen sends a group text to all the girls saying, we know we have these two events going on, but I'm gonna have transportation, you know, to come from my event to get to Giselle's event. And Giselle sends a message saying, "I y'all just go to Karen's event. Let's just not even do this." Because in Giselle's mind, if you RSVP to my event, you already know this event is going on already. You RSVP'd here first. If you go on to Karen's event, don't even bother coming to my event and coming late because that's not what she's trying to do. Karen's event, I believe, was from 6 to 9. It says on the thing, and it seems like Giselle's event was from 7 to 9. And y'all, these is on different sides of town. Like if you're in DC, when they show the map, Karen's event, I believe it was over there around Potomac. I remember them leaving from Potomac Ave somewhere, but on the map, it was somewhere near the White House area, kind of around there. And Giselle's event is all the way up in Union Market, which is actually around where I live in Northeast DC. So you're going from Northwest to Northeast. And Wendy pointed out, she's like, with DC traffic, child, you might as well not even try. So the women are put in this situation about what to choose from, which Karen is being super messy, y'all. This is super messy. Now she knows she's putting this women in this situation and had to make a choice. And they're gonna have to decide. Interesting enough, the women that decide to go to Karen's event first are Wendy, Kay, Mia, and Stacy. They're all in the car to go to Karen's event that next day first. And they're trying to work out, get into Giselle's event. They call up Ashley and was saying, they just want to let her know that they want to support and yada, yada, yada. They're trying to figure out the best thing to do and how to manage this and trying to figure out the latest time to show up. And so Ashley tells them to be here because they said they were thinking 8:30. Even Stacy shouting like 8:30 is too late. We got to be there earlier. And Ashley says be here by 8. She's like, at least try to be here by 8 o'clock. All right. Who shows up to Giselle? Vivian, interested enough, who's one of Karen's friends. She like RSVP'd already for Giselle's event. So she shows up there. She's there. Jacqueline shows up, which Jacqueline wasn't even in the text group because Karen already said Jacqueline is on timeout. Now that was hilarious. She didn't like the way Jacqueline responded to her DUI situation when Jacqueline said we're gonna wait till the courts decide. And Karen's like, no. If you're my friend, you rocking with me no matter what. Who cares what the courts decide? You should know in front of hand. So this is her situation to clear bitches. And she's like, either you're with me or you're not. And so she said Jacqueline is on timeout. So Jacqueline wasn't even included in this message to get the Karens in the first place. So Jacqueline is at Giselle's event. And then what happens? Going from Karen's event, the ladies, Wendy and Kay, they stay behind because they're waiting to see Karen get awarded what award she's getting. And they said we'll just Uber there if we need to. But which I understand. I understand Wendy and Kay 100% going to Karen's event. That's their girl. That's who they riding with. Wendy and Giselle, y'all are just now trying to do something. So I get it. Now, the other girls rush to get there. They walk in at 8:04. It says 8:03, 8:04. Giselle's like, no, no, no. She stops whatever she was doing. She sees them walking in and she's like, you gotta go. And she even brings security around to escort them out. And we're left on this cliffhanger for next week of how it goes down. Now, I saw some pieces of the first look. We're gonna wait till next week to really talk about it and get into it, but it looks like it's definitely going down and entertaining and getting back to that whole housewives drama. Now, how I feel about this, I'm more with Giselle on this. Even though Karen has been super messy and I love it, but no, Giselle is right in the sense of you. I feel like if you RSVP for an event that you already knew what was going on, and you know this is about her father who just passed away, I feel like in handling this situation, you would try to find out what time Karen is being awarded, first of all, but I would go to Giselle's event first and then go to Karen's event. Now, Karen provided this transportation. That was just super messy because he's like, no, you come in here first, the ones that decide, and we'll get you over there. No, if you RSVP for an event, you need to show up. I mean, it's just point blank that same day of too. Like, I feel like that's a little bit disrespectful not to go there first. Now, the throwing out energy makes for good TV, but that's a bit much, I think. And then getting security to kind of escort them out. Like, girl, it was still like 8 o'clock. There's a whole nother hour to go for the event. So that part I definitely was super messy and stuff. I feel like that might have been a little bit much, but I am more with Giselle on this in a sense of no, you're showing to me like it's more disrespectful not to come here first with the RSVP and you know what this event is for to go to Karen's because I don't even know if they saw Karen get an award. Like they went there, like you could have went there second. You really could have. Um, we'll see how this shakes out. I'm curious. I'm so curious what y'all think as far as like who was right, who was wrong in this situation, what would have happened, and what do you think is going to go down? Like how this event goes down and then it's handled. Did Giselle do too much in the fact of the way that she escorted them out? Or was she within her boundaries to handle that however the hell she wanted to at that point? We'll see. But Potomac is giving me some real housewives energy and stuff that's just fun to sit back and is not super serious, where we're not getting into all these dissecting and racial conversations and da 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 da. Like, this is not the platform for that. Mm-mm. Stuff I love talking about, but not on our Housewives franchise.